Okay, today is Tuesday, May 11th, 2021. This is the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Can we get a roll call?
Okay. Board Member Audrey Dominguez.
Here.
Okay. Board Member Claudine Hibbert.
Here.
Okay. Board Member Don Mangum.
Present.
Okay. Board Member Rose Titus.
Present.
Okay. And Chair Guerrero.
Present.
Okay. Attendance confirmed.
Okay. Ms. Titus, would you like to lead us in the invocation?
Thank you. Father, we do thank you and we praise you for not only this day, because we recognize that this is a day that you have made. May we continue to rejoice in it as we acknowledge the fact that you have chosen us to make decisions concerning the growth and the development of this city. You told us, you said, you have mentioned in your word that if any man lacks wisdom, to ask of you, and you would give it unto him freely and upbraideth not. We request your wisdom today as we make those decisions that are according to your will for the well-being of this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to the flag,
Flag
the United States of America, and
and
to the
to the
republic
for
for
which
which it stands,
And
one nation, under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and
justice for all. Okay, can we get a motion to approve the minutes from March 16?
I move for the approval of the minutes of March 16.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Okay. Board Member Dominguez.
Present.
Yes or no to the approval of the
Yes, I'm
minutes?
sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Hibbert.
Yes.
Board Member Mangum.
Yes.
Board Member Titus.
Yes,
Chair Guerrero.
Yes.
Okay. Minutes passed.
Okay. Item number 1, can we get it read into the record?
A resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, recommending final plat approval for the construction and operation of a warehouse distribution center on the property located at 12700 Lejeune Road, identified by folio 08-2129-000-0032 in the Pre-3 zoning district, providing for incorporation and recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Do we have a applicant presentation?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we do have attendees that are in the waiting room. Janet Storm is with Police Land and Survey, Inc. She is the person that is taking it through the replat process. So we will have her to make a presentation. And just to remind some of you who may be familiar with this particular site, this is the auto auction site that has been operating within our city, which is in the southwest corner of the city of Opa-locka, just to the west of the Opa-locka flea market. This is a site that you've already previously approved for the development of retail and warehouse facilities, approximately 500,000 square feet. That project has already been approved along with the development agreement. And this is basically to take you through the steps of the replat process. Ms. Storm will make a presentation as it relates to what the replatting process entails.
Thank you, Mr. Gay.
I see Ms. Storm there. I think she's on mute. Ms. Thorne? Ms. Thorne, you can make your presentation. Ms. Thorne? Can you hear us? Okay, I think Mr. Storms is having some difficulties. But I've given you pretty much a synopsis as to what you'll be looking at as it relates to the replating process. Replating is basically a process of formalizing the site for development. This particular site, I believe it has 3 tracks that are associated with the development, and they are looking to do the replat process to unify the site for the purposes of the development of the warehousing in the distribution center.
And as far as staff recommendations, I remember the applicant from before, the staff recommendations would be?
As far as the staff recommendations, we do recommend approval for the replat process. This is a process that pretty much initiates and it is done in partnership through Miami-Dade County. We've already done the initial plat, and that has gone through the process. So this is in essence for the final plat, which upon your recommendation will be proffered to the City Commission for approval. Once the final plat is approved, then it will be recorded with Miami-Dade County.
Okay. Do we have any questions for staff from any of the board members? Anybody not up to date with the property that we're talking about?
I see Ms. Dominguez's hand is up.
Yes, I have a question. I noticed that this used to be the previous auto auction, and it states that it's going to be now a warehouse distribution center. What type of distribution center? Because I wasn't present in the first meeting, so I'd like to know what exactly is it going to be?
In terms of the distribution use, I know they are seeking several different vendors or tenants to be within this particular facility. That has yet to be determined, but basically it's very similar to the type of warehousing facilities that are being built in several different locations around airport properties. It's basically a Class A warehouse facility with retail space that's appropriately designed to be oriented toward the public streets. A majority of this site is actually going to be facing onto either the Gratney Expressway or to the areas to the north, which is the back of other industrial uses. The front portion will be facing onto Northwest 42nd Avenue, also known as Lejeune. So that portion itself would be where it would be kind of a shared use of retail as well as warehousing. But a majority of the site is probably going to be utilized for warehouse.
Thank you. Any other questions? Ms. Hall? Yeah, go ahead.
We do have a staff report. I believe the report is supposed to be provided by Mr. Lee, and he was having some difficulties getting on. But basically, I've pretty much given you a synopsis of what it entails as far as the site is concerned. And staff does recommend approval for the replat.
At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Ms. Hall, do we have anybody has contacted for any comment?
Chairman, no, sir. I haven't received any comments from the public regarding this item.
Very well. Okay, I'm closing public hearing. And can we get a motion on item number 1?
Oh, I have one quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there a time frame upon which this project is to be completed, or is it open-ended?
As it stands right now, according to the development agreement that was already been proffered, this particular development has a 15-year window of development. They are looking at developing it within phases. The first phase is anticipated to begin construction probably by the summer of next year, with the other phases following subsequently. But they do have a 15-year window overall for development of the entire site.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, at this time, can we get a motion?
I move that we approve this request for this is the plat approval
Yes,
Right.
it is.
The
Yeah.
replatting, yes.
for the replatting of this property at 12700 Northwest 42nd Avenue.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Okay, I'm sorry, Chair didn't hear. Who was the second? Who second?
I did. Audrey Dominguez.
All right, thank you. Okay, all right. Board Member Dominguez?
Yes.
Okay, Board Member Hibbert?
Yes.
Board Member Mangum?
Yes.
Board Member Titus?
Yes.
Chair Guerrero?
Yes,
Okay, item passed. Thank you.
thank you. Okay. We get item number 2 right into the record.
A resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, recommending final site plan approval for the construction and operation of a residential mixed-use building located at 2050 Alibaba Avenue, identified by folios 08-2122-003-2140, 08-2122-003-2150, 08-2122-003-2160, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Can you just repeat that address in the beginning for me, please?
2050 Alibaba Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just to kind of give you a brief introduction. This is a mixed-use development that is being proposed within the Magnolia North area of the city of Opa-locka. This is going to be a new construction for this particular area. And they're looking at taking advantage of our zoning categories of doing mixed-use development within the city of Opa-locka. We do have within the waiting room, we have a Mr. Nehemiah Davis, who is a part of this project, I believe, and Eddie FLUX, Eddie Seymour of FLUX Development. He's also to be a part of this development as well. And I don't know if there's anyone else that's a part of this that's maybe in the waiting room. So, Mr. Seymour and Mr. Davis, you can make your presentation at this time.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present this project to you guys. Like Mr. Gay said, we are proposing a mixed-use project located at 2050 Alibaba Avenue. The current site is vacant. It has an area of 12,500 square feet. And the proposed project would be an 8-story mixed-use building. The first level would be retail, as you can tell here by the image that I'm showing on the screen, along with the entry driveway for the parking garage. The parking garage would be on levels 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the units would be above that all the way to the 8th level. We're proposing a total of 30 units, ranging from 1 bedrooms to 2 bedrooms. And we are also proposing about 32 parking spaces to go along with those units. The project is being proposed as an affordable housing project in order to revitalize the current area. We are also incorporating the Moorish design style, which is one of the requirements for the zoning code for the city of Opa-locka. So we did that specifically along the podium levels on the first few floors by incorporating the Moorish style arches here in the front facade and also along the main entryway. Here I'm showing you the ground floor. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have the retail component along with the necessary setbacks for this type of zoning. On the right-hand side, we have the office component for the building. That would be the main leasing office for the apartments. And then beyond that, we have the lobby for the elevators, along with a few parking spaces on the ground floor. Once you continue past that area, you can take the ramp going all the way up to the levels above for the parking garage. And I'll show you that right now. These are the flat elevations, calling out the different materiality. We also have 3D renderers, which are much easier to understand and to visualize what the materiality would be. So primarily we're using a stucco finish on the exterior, which would be painted in white. And there are some areas which would be painted in a darker gray and also a cream color, such as this one here in the middle. Most of the units have balconies. Actually, I believe maybe there's about only 2 units that do not have access to an outdoor balcony. However, we can implement what we call Juliet balconies, which are about 2 or 3 feet in depth. And most of those units will have that access. We're also implementing art murals along the facade in order to welcome local artists to be a part of this project. We have 2 larger murals, one on the west side and one on the east side. And ideally, we would like to hire some local artists to perform those murals on the building. And here, once again, this is a larger image of that front rendering that I showed you earlier. So at this point, I'd like to open it up in case you guys have any questions for us.
So you'd have 1 retail space in the ground floor?
Correct. We have 1 retail on the ground floor.
Okay.
Just this area here, which I'm highlighting with my cursor right now. And the other area would be meant as a leasing office for the apartments.
And these apartments will be 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
Correct. And we actually do have some, let me go back up real quick, just 1 second. I have the unit mix here. So to be correct, there would be 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. The 2 bedrooms would average a size of 973 square feet, and we have a total of 16 of those. And the 3 bedrooms would average a size of 1,196 square feet, and we have a total of 14 of those.
There will be like 1 parking space per unit almost, right? That's what it breaks down to.
Correct. Correct. That is correct.
Okay. We have any other questions from board members?
Hearing that there are no questions, we'd like to have the staff make their presentation.
Oh, I have a statement that I would like to make.
Go ahead.
Okay. I normally have an opportunity to make the time to visit each site that we're considering, but I did not have an opportunity to do this. So I'm not really familiar with the area, but from judging from the address, it's a single family area. Is that correct? It's surrounded by single family homes?
So there are other commercial buildings nearby. I believe there's a church nearby, but the area itself is zoned for commercial. So the zoning here is B1 with the mixed use overlay district, which allows for commercial and residential uses.
How many commercial buildings are there now?
Currently, the site is vacant. Let me zoom in on this map, which we have here, to give you a better explanation. So these are the 3 lots for our project. To the southwest, there's currently a building which is being used for, I believe, commercial purposes. And there's also another building to the northeast of us on this side here. Both of those buildings are about 1 or 2 stories in height.
If I could address board member Titus' inquiry, this is in the Magnolia North area of the city along Alibaba Avenue. And this particular section of Alibaba Avenue, as the applicant has said, it is zone B1, which is low density commercial, but it does have the mixed use overlay, which we have implemented throughout our commercial corridors in the city, that allows you to grow up in density as long as you're doing a mixed use development, which is what they are proposing to do here. As far as the scale and the uses that occur within this community, it is varied. You have a variety of things from mixed use, from single family homes to duplexes, to townhomes, to garden style apartments. So you have a variety of different building types that occur throughout this entire community. This area is more toward the western edge, closer to 22nd Avenue. And we anticipate, because of its location, you will have a higher intense use to occur. That's why the property is zoned for commercial, as well as the mixed use type of activity to occur. And we anticipate that there will be a greater sense of density to occur toward the western edge of this particular community.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest concerns is the density. It seems to be a little too high as far as I'm concerned for that particular area and for what is presently going on. I would hate for us to get in the situation that we have with the town center. The town center was presented to us as a much higher, much more denser project, and we have they lowered the scale. But as far as I'm concerned, as far as parking is concerned, they didn't lower it enough. It seems to me there's going to be a parking problem with this project. And as far as the retail is concerned, I think this project reflects the minimum to be considered retail. One small little corner as the retail. I'm very concerned about the parking. I don't think there's enough parking for the density. And we're going to be faced with the same problem that we have with town center building.
Can they repeat how many levels of parking and how many parking spaces is in the building?
So the parking garage starts on level 1 and it goes all the way up to level 4, which is about half of the building. And we're able to get a total of 32 parking spaces,
And how many units is it again?
a total of 30 units.
How many
Mike?
bedrooms each unit?
Sorry?
What is the bedroom capacity in each unit?
So 16 of the units are 2 bedrooms and 14 of the units are 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, it's definitely concerning the parking because this is residential. There's no, will there be any parking spaces which are visitor designated?
We intend to designate 1 space for the commercial and 1 space for visitor.
For 30 units? I mean, we were definitely gonna have people parking somewhere else on the street, or that's almost a given. I mean, can staff elaborate on this or chime in?
I do see Ms. Dominguez with her hand up, but as a follow-up, we do have staff presentation that we would like to make.
Okay, let's hear from Ms. Dominguez and then we'll go on to staff presentation.
Okay, the project is beautiful. It's gorgeous. I mean, that would change the dynamics of the city of Opa-locka. However, I noticed that there is this empty space on the left and then an empty space on the right. I wasn't sure which one they were gonna get because I think I saw a house there. And you said that there's 30 units, 1 to 3 bedrooms, and there's 32 parking. How many of those are gonna be for disabled parking? Those are my questions. I don't think there's enough parking because most people either have 1 car, 2 cars, maybe they don't have a car, but you're gonna have someone to have at least 2 cars. So that's my concern.
Right. Yeah, to answer your question, we will be providing for handicapped parking spaces. That is required by the Florida Building Code. So there's a specific ratio that we have to meet in order to be approved by the building department. So that is a given. As far as the parking condition, within your code, when you have a mixed-use project and also affordable housing component to it, the zoning code does allow for a parking reduction up to 65% of the overall required parking, which in this case, we're not asking for a 65% reduction. We're asking for more like a 45% reduction.
Okay, and that's one of the points that we will be talking about as a part of staff's presentation. So if we can do that at this time.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Gay.
I'm loading on now. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Good. All right. The corporation's name is Faye Plowstein Corporation, and this is in regards to the mixed-use development they're looking to construct on Alibaba Avenue. The project is a residential mixed-use project, and it is bound by Alibaba Avenue to the north and the rail line to the south. The applicant is looking to construct an 8-story structure at a maximum height of 89 feet. Attached here is a map of the zoning that shows that the surrounding areas are in fact also B2 as well, and it is within a mixed-use overlay, allowing for an increase in density for units as well as a potential for a residential component along with the development. A few of the project specs: the project intends to address the following elements, both unique and general to the site, as well as to the city of Opa-locka: revitalization, architecture, public art, and affordable and workforce housing. Development will consist of 30 units, 962 square feet of retail, 516 square foot leasing office, and 32 parking spaces as mentioned. The site has laid vacant for many years. The proposal seeks to reinvigorate the area by introducing a mixed-use development, which will generate new activity for the residents, ground level commercial for small businesses, a green area that will enhance the beautification of the neighborhood, and a new project overall to begin the transition of the Magnolia North community. I have here some schematics that have been provided from the applicant. He pretty much touched on most of the specifics of the project and pretty much through all our criteria in terms of aesthetics to the community, beautification, and as well as being able to provide additional housing for that community pretty much falls in line with our criteria. One thing that I will make of note is the parking that has been brought up. Currently that area, we do a 0.8 ratio in terms of parking per unit due to the mixed use overlay. However, that can be a discussion of the board if we'd like to find some remedies for the parking issue. Highlighting there are some previous projects that have brought this concern to the table. But with that being said, staff recommends approval of the site plan with any modifications and recommendations from the board. That ends my presentation.
I would like to say that the retail area is what, 900 square feet. That's not very large. I don't know any retail that would really benefit in that particular area for that particular amount of space would be a restaurant. That's the only thing that I can think of that would even consider going in there, in that area and in that amount of space. You can't have 2 or 3 different businesses in that amount of space. There's not enough retail as far as I'm concerned. And it's too dense for that area.
I will make a note in terms of density. There's actually 3 on the south end, on the south side of Alibaba Avenue. There are 3 apartment buildings. 2 are currently defunct. 1 is still existing. That is to the southwest of this particular project. And there are 2 commercial properties across the street. One is the Opa-locka Cultural Arts Building, and another is to the southwest of that as well. However, that building is defunct. But there are properties that do reflect the type of development that we're looking for. But your comment is well noted in terms of the site not being that large. However, developments like this, they usually utilize that one space to be a cornerside bistro or a local marketplace or things like that. So there's ways that it can be utilized, but your comment is well noted.
What would be,
if I may piggyback off of Mr. Delane and Board Member Titus, we're looking, the whole city is going through what I would call a rebirth as it relates to the interest in development. We just had a ribbon cutting for development to complete the Sailboat Cove development, which is on the eastern portion of the city. Matter of fact, not too far from this site. But one thing I would like to say as it relates to the Magnolia North area, and we have to take in consideration that there are zoning overlays that are in place to encourage a variety of development, but more so looking at mixed use as an opportunity. Now, when you speak about the commercial or retail component or even office component, retail can take on many different forms and fashion. And as we have noticed, over the last 14 months going through the pandemic, retail has definitely shifted. Their footprint may not necessarily be as large on a property as it has been in the past. So people looking at micro units or micro commercial opportunities, this site may be one of the first to begin to promote that particular type of use for business development as well as office development. This could be a small office incubator where you can have several different people with different companies operating from this particular space. So I think we need to kind of look at it from a more broader perspective, not necessarily looking at it from what the standard footprint has been for commercial use, but what the oncoming opportunities may be for commercial, office, and retail development.
What would be the normal, if this was not in the mixed use overlay district, what would be the normal amount of parking spaces given the residential aspect for the number of units?
Well, first and foremost, there would be no residential aspect associated with it. The site is zone B1, so it's zoned for commercial use.
But there are residential units adjacent to it.
There are residential units as well as churches which have been there for quite some time. Those particular uses are based on previous zoning codes, and as you all, well, most of you probably know, we updated the zoning code approximately 7 years ago. But prior to that, there was commercial occurring on this particular site. So this is not a zoning that we varied in some way, shape, or form. But there's probably a good case that the residential use that is still presently there predates the change in the zoning to commercial.
And I noticed on the rendering, I noticed there was on-street parking. I don't know if maybe that could be used in some way, shape, or form to alleviate, because I kind of know that with the residential aspect of it, 30 spaces for 32 and 3-bedroom units is going to be really going to be an issue. I mean, the commercial space is small, but you're right about what you said. I understand. It's just the residential part that it, has me a little. But from the rendering I saw, there's on-street parking. I don't know if something could be done with that to kind of alleviate, or how would that work?
I'll let the applicant speak to that, but I will say that since they are looking at doing this as an affordable housing project, one of the things that may be able to kind of be utilized to allow them to have a reduction in parking is to have access to other forms of transportation. Now, we know that this particular property is not too far from Northwest 22nd Avenue. There is a major bus line that goes along that particular route. Right along Alibaba Avenue, it is probably one of the one street or one of two streets in the city of Opa-locka that has a dedicated bike path. So there is an opportunity that instead of utilizing parking for vehicles, that the property managers could offer an alternative type of transportation, utilizing bike service in some way, shape, or form. And we have taken in consideration that the way people get around in this city has changed probably over the last 10 years. You have ride services that are being provided now, and there are a lot of people that utilize that particular service to either get to public transportation to get wherever their final destination may be, or they utilize it to basically get to their final destination. So there are other alternatives to basically look at reducing the demand and the need for parking requirements and for parking. And we will hope that there will be other resources available for the potential residents for this particular project to be able to utilize this. This is a rental development, so we have to take that in consideration as well. So those are some of the speaking points that I wanted to add on. I don't know if Mr. A wants to add some things in relationship to speaking to the parking requirements.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gay. I think you covered most of it. I would say that if the city is open to utilizing some of the on-street parking towards the project, we would be more than happy to work with you guys to possibly add some of that towards the building. I think that would be great. And yes, to answer your question, there is currently, as of right now, on-street parking in front of that, in front of those properties.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board members? Okay. Public hearing. Ms. Hall, do we have any comments from the public?
Currently checking my email as we go. At the moment, I do not have any comments at the moment, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Public hearing is closed for item number 2. Can we get a motion either for or against item number 2?
Before we do a motion, I actually do have a question.
Go ahead.
Let me see how I can formulate the question. What would the property need to be in terms of meeting the density requirement? Like, what would they need to reduce or add?
I guess that question is probably geared more towards staff. Not to infringe on, you know, the property owner's ability to design what they feel is suitable for the site and what may, in essence, meet their economic opportunities. Looking at this particular site and looking overall within the city of Opa-locka, there aren't a lot of tall buildings. The tallest building that we have right now is 6 stories, and that's in the town center area. There is an opportunity to have higher density in this particular location due to the fact that this is probably the furthest to the east and away from the airport. So the further you get from the airport, the more opportunity you have to go vertical. So to make a long story short, it's really based on their ability or their financing in order to build a taller building. If they wanted to build a taller building, maybe look at different room relationships and look at an opportunity of increasing the parking. That's something that they could consider, but that's really going to be based on their financial means to do that.
So they can go up, they can still increase floors.
I believe they can. The height in this particular area, and I'll ask Mr. Lee to kind of verify this. I believe the height that they can go up to in this area is approximately 100 to 120 feet. Right now they're at 89. But of course, the higher you go, the more it's going to cost you to go vertical. So, and you have to take in consideration the type of units that they're providing. Is probably some of the larger units that we've seen in the city of Opa-locka for quite some time, averaging between 900 to 1,200 square feet.
Well, I don't think that they would need to add more units.
Well, yeah, they may not need to add.
I don't know that that would fix the
But if you're
parking
looking
issue.
at adding more parking.
So maybe adding a floor of parking, maybe?
Okay, but taking consideration that each
If
parking space.
parking is the issue, okay, go ahead.
Taking consideration that each parking space that you, and this is just what I've heard from people that deal with development. To build a garage parking, the average parking space costs you $20,000 to $25,000 per space. So if you're looking at adding, say, another 15 spaces, that's going to cost you a significant amount of dollars, and you're not increasing the unit number overall. So
Are they meeting the code with what they have now?
they are not meeting the code as it is per se for market rate on development. They're recommending that this is an affordable housing project, which entitles them to ask for a parking reduction.
Which is why they're here. Okay, got it.
Thank you. If there's no other questions, we can have a motion. Anybody either for or against?
I want a motion, I'm just thinking here because Alabama needs construction. They need develop. That street, that area needs some development. And so I'm just thinking here, is everyone really going to have cars? And I just wrote down the unit count against the parking. Is it something, I don't know that everyone's gonna have a car, but I don't think we can make a decision based on what we think is gonna happen. I'd like to make a motion to approve the project.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Okay. Board Member Dominguez,
Yes.
Board Member Hibbert,
Yes.
okay. Board Member Mangum,
Yes.
Board Member Titus, Board Member Titus,
I'm sorry, I didn't unmute. No.
okay. And Chair Guerrero,
Yes.
okay. Item passed.
Thank you. Can we get item number 3 read into the record?
A resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, recommending development agreement approval for the construction and operation of a residential mixed-use building located at 2050 Alibaba Avenue, identified by folios 08-2122-003-2140, 08-2122 003-2150 and 08-2122-003-2160, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
This is basically an item for the development agreement associated with the previous item that you just entertained. There may be certain speaking points as it relates to the development agreement. I will ask Mr. Delane to go over those specifics as it relates to the development agreement. As far as the staff recommendation or the staff report, it would be the same as the previous application. So it's just a matter of talking about the talking points as it relates to the development agreement itself.
In that regard, I would like to open it up to the applicant to speak to the specifics of their development agreement. Are they still on?
What are the names of the applicants?
Eddie and
Nehemiah, I don't see them on anymore.
I see Nehemiah Davis in the attendees room. I don't see Eddie.
Mr. Davis has been brought in.
Mr. Davis, are you available?
Yes.
And I was looking to see if we can grab Eddie as well. We want to go over the specifics of the development agreement. Nehemiah, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Eddie's,
Say it one more time.
I'm trying to get hold of Eddie to come back.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, I do see Mr. Eddie. He's in the attendee room now.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes, this is Eddie Seymour. I'm calling back.
Yes, the board would like to go over the development agreement just for clarification and if need be modification.
Sure. Thank you.
Mhm.
You guys have that on record, or should we pull that up?
If you could pull it up to go over the specifics of it, that would be fine.
Okay, just give me 1 second, please.
Okay. As he's pulling that up, the DA is pretty much a boilerplate on the agreements of, what we're looking for from the city. There isn't too many items that are outstanding. I'll let Eddie kind of elaborate on them. And this is also the opportunity where we can discuss if the board would like to make some recommendation in regards to the parking issues. So I'll let Eddie go ahead and give a slight presentation in regards to the development agreement from their end.
Yes, so we put together the development agreement. I believe we used a template that was provided to us by the city of Opa-locka. To be quite honest, this is not my area of expertise. This was put together by the client's attorney. So is there a specific item that you guys are looking for, or any kind of information that I can give you?
Not one specific item. I more or less have a kind of a question for staff. Is there a way that we can kind of incorporate something to the effect where this on-street parking would be utilized to kind of give a buffer for the parking situation? Is that something that could be structured in the, into the development agreement?
Yes, this is the part of the process where you can make your recommendations and we can forward it back to the city attorney's office to come to some resolution in agreement with the applicant.
So, what I'm asking staff basically is obviously the on-street parking is not part of the property. I don't know how it would be phrased is what I'm saying. Maybe that's a question for the attorney. I don't know if the parking spaces are leased from the city for the exclusive use of the development, or if they would be sold, or I don't know how to phrase it would be my question. How would it be legal?
You're questioning what the second whereas clause or?
No, I'm really not reading the development agreement. What I'm trying to do is figure out a way where we could put some stipulation that might alleviate this parking issue. I mean, I think we're all on board that we're for the development. We just have concerns with the parking situation. And since there's on-street parking, I mean, I don't know if it's just when something like this happens is first come, first serve, or is there a way that those could be designated parking as overflow for the development, either for the retail aspect of it, or maybe the handicap, or maybe the residential. I mean, I'm pretty sure they can get 4 or 5 spaces in the front on the street.
That would have to be reviewed and discussed as far as, because I don't know about the neighboring buildings, if you're trying to take away from there, but that's something that we would need to discuss and bring the language for. What you all need to discuss in that is what the intention is, and then we'll go off of that so that the applicant knows what it is that they will be agreeing to in the future.
So
pretty much at this moment, the board can make a recommendation for staff to look into recommendations to alleviate the parking concern. And then we'll take that back, work with the applicant for some reallocation of parking. And then we'll bring this item back to you, or we'll actually bring this item to the commission if we're working on it concurrently, if agreed upon, to have that stipulation in that development agreement to alleviate for the parking concern.
Yeah, sounds good. I was just trying to see how we would phrase it. So we should just basically say,
basically agree with stipulations. That's pretty much how it would work. You would agree,
right,
however, contingent on
staff and the applicant working out the parking situation, the on-street parking situation.
Correct.
Good.
Right.
Okay.
And that's how it should be passed today.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from any board members?
Was this agreement in our, I don't see it in our packet.
The agreement with the parking?
The
the development agreement.
right. That were
Page 109, I believe, is where it is. Page 108 and 109, I think.
108 and 109. Well, for some reason I don't have it. That's okay.
I'm sorry, correction. I believe it starts on page 102 of our packet.
Are there any other questions of staff or for the applicant regarding the development agreement?
At this time, do we have any public comment?
Chairman, at the moment, I did not receive any public comments.
Okay, public hearing closed. Can we get a motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Board Member Dominguez,
Yes.
Board Member Hibbert,
Yeah.
Board Member Mangum,
Yes.
Board Member Titus,
No.
Chair Guerrero,
Yes.
item passed.
And for the record, that last item, staff will be working with the city attorney to come up with stipulations in regards to the parking concern of the board, just for the record.
Thank you.
I have a question, please. if there is no resolve as far as the parking is concerned, or something that you can live with, the development stands.
No. Due to the fact that it is a part of their development agreement, if they don't amend to that, we can either work towards some kind of resolution, or it has to come back to the floor for, basically have to start the process all over again.
So in other words, there must be some resolve as far as the parking is concerned.
Because it is a recommendation of this board, prior to it reaching the city commission, we have to come up with some kind of remedy to the issue before it's heard by the commission. So yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can we?
So we're not recommending it be an exception?
If the board wishes to make an exception to that, they can do that as well. We just want to be able to provide all options to either allow for this development or make the alterations as needed.
Well, yeah, we've already discussed the issues, and staff is going to work with the applicant on resolving the parking issue.
Mm-hmm.
As part of a stipulation for a development agreement approval.
Yeah. A part of the board's recommendation is they make some remedy to the parking situation. Yes. That is a stipulation of their agreement. If they don't agree to it, then we have to go back to the drawing board.
Maybe I missed that part. Okay.
Okay. Item number 4.
A resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka recommending final site plan approval for the construction and operation of a senior affordable housing facility located at 14703 Northwest 27th Avenue, identified by folios 08-2122-025-0580 and 08-2122-025-0590, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. We have the applicant with their presentation.
Yes. The applicant is here with Wellsprings Apartment LLC. They will be making a presentation regarding this particular project. I believe they have Mr. Kareem Brantley, Mr. Aaron McKinney, Mr. Robert Holland, I believe Sarah Corney is a part of this project as well. And there's a Mr. Akins, who is also listed as well.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gay, it would also be Robert Holland. Oh, he's there, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Gay, do you guys have the presentation in your system?
I believe
We
it
have
was
it.
over.
Oh, sorry. We do have it. However, all participants are able to screen share. So if you're able to do it, you can. If not, staff can provide it as well.
Well, I might need your help on the screen share because I'm trying to do this with a better pixelation from the iPad.
Okay, Mr. Holland, I have it pulled up. So whenever you're ready, give me a quick second.
All right, so on August 31st, 2020, Wellspring Community Resources, which is the owner of this project, received a 30-year ground lease from Miami-Dade County with a right for an additional 2 15-year extensions as an option for a total of 60 years. They leased the leased property area is approximately 164,000 square feet, about 3.78 acres. Wellspring Community Resources, along with Integral Development, have partnered to develop a 3.78 acre site in the heart of Opa-locka to provide affordable senior housing and medical services to low-income residents of Miami-Dade County. Located within this mixed-use corridor designated along State Road 817 and Northwest 27th Avenue, which is approximately 147th Street and 27th Avenue, the former Jackson Health System site, will offer quality housing and a combination of medical services, including but not limited to primary care, dental office, food services, behavioral and mental health services, and physical therapy adjacent to a 6-story mid-rise residential building, which will be elderly housing. The residential component of this project will be comprised of 110 1 and 2 bedroom units available to seniors earning at or below 6% of the area income. If you look at the next slide, if you go, it gives you pretty much a site plan. I can't move a cursor. We go down to the next one.
Next slide.
Yes, please. This gives you pretty much a site plan. What you see in the yellow is a development, 6-story facility, has a community center, mail room, miscellaneous room, lobby, leasing office. Obviously, if you can look throughout the project, you have the parking. So it's 110 units of senior living. Of that 110, 5 are studios, 93 are 1-bedrooms, 12 are 2-bedrooms. The studios are roughly 500 square feet. The 1-bedrooms are roughly 580 square feet. The 2-bedrooms are roughly 840 square feet. It'll have the Moorish exterior wall tile, and I'll show you some pictures of that as we get down there. Impact windows, aluminum railings, 88 parking spaces on site. I think we can get up to 96 if we do off-street. As most of you all know, with senior housing, elderly housing, the parking ratio is reduced from that of normal housing developments because most of these seniors do not necessarily drive anymore, but you do have, a portion of them that do drive, or family may come in to see them at a facility. So most of it is visitor parking, if anything, as opposed to static vehicles being on site. The community center is roughly about 3,400 square feet. And as I mentioned, the facility would be 6 stories in height. We can go to the next. You can see on the common open space on the first sheet close to the bottom, where the regulatory guidelines ask for 5%, we're at about 28% of common open space. So that's a lot of open space compared to many of the developments in the city. Next slide. Next slide. That just gives them the units. Next slide. Next one. I want to get to the renditions of the buildings. The next one. Keep going. All right. So these are the floor plans. I'm sorry. If you guys want to take a perusal, you'll see what the 1-bedroom, the different floor plans for 1-bedroom, the different floor plans for 2 bedrooms, and then you'll also see what the floor plan is for the what I mentioned was the studios. You have 5 of those. Next site plan, down. All right, so as you can see, this is pretty much the rendition from the north. The buildings are oriented where when you look at them from 27th Avenue, you don't see this massive building across the front because it runs longitudinal, struggling with that word since elementary school. But this is the northern version of elevation of the building. And you can see the Moorish look on the building. If we go to the next, the south, that will be the south portion. Next slide. This would be the eastern portion. And most importantly, the western portion, if you go to the next one, this is what you see from 27th Avenue. So you don't see this massive building that runs across with 27th Avenue. You see it running towards the east. So you don't get a massive look from 27th Avenue. It's something that makes it very community oriented. Next slide. Is that it there?
Mm-hmm.
And so, as I mentioned, this is a senior living facility. Again, it's 110 units with roughly 88 parking spaces on site, which obviously I think your staff is very supportive of the project altogether. It will enhance the community. It'll give some of the seniors in the area who have seen some of their facilities kind of decline. It gives them a great place to go with community services intact. We think it's something there's a strong market for it. Obviously, with these facilities, there also has to be generators and everything in there in case of hurricanes. So I think you'll have that protection for those seniors there, so they don't have to worry about major power outages as you kind of work there. And I think it might be off the grid of the whole hospital, which may also give them a greater stability with some of the power structure as well. So that is the project in a nutshell. Kareem Bradley is the principal with Wells Springs. He is an African-American developer who was also a partner in the redevelopment of Liberty Square. They've been very attuned in making sure that project has worked well with minority contractors out of the area. They've employed many people in that project from the area codes around that area. So he has his feet wet and knows how to get things done by using people out of the community. And so I think that becomes a great asset as a developer on this particular project, especially when you look at your development agreement, trying to make sure that you get people from Opa-locka employed and housed in these facilities that you're trying to bring into your community. And I think despite what people may have said about Liberty Square in the beginning, everybody loves what is going on now and the number of jobs that have been produced, and many residents out of Liberty Square are now working on those development projects. So I think this gives us a chance to lead by example on how to do this in Opa-locka, and we welcome any comments or questions that you may have.
What is the age for the seniors that are going to be in there, age restriction wise?
Typically, that's done by Florida law. I think it's 55 and older. Kareem, am I correct on that?
Sure. Different. Good evening, board members and Chairman Guerrero. Typically, the state of Florida defines elderly as 62 and older. In different jurisdictions and different funding sources, it can also be defined as 55. But for this development, we will be looking at ages at 62 and above.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Yes.
May I just make a couple other statements?
Sure. Go ahead.
So one of the things that I just wanted to highlight in this project is number one, I'm a kid who grew up right outside of Opa-locka on 132nd Street and 22nd Avenue. So Shabani Park, Claude Pepper Park is where I hone my basketball skills. Apparently not well enough, because I would have been doing something different than what I'm doing now. I would have been dunking a basketball or you know, some other pursuit that led from all those days of playing in the hot sun. But with that said, I am just proud to be able to develop in the city of Opa-locka if this should go forward. And one of the things I wanted to mention is that, you know, we worked hand in hand with the city. There is currently some infrastructure work that needs to be accomplished around the site, and we have taken up that mantle to work with the city to accomplish that in terms of drainage, in terms of some sewer improvements in the area. Also, we work with the city planning and zoning department to not seek a parking reduction, whereas our attorney, Robert Holland, mentioned is typical in many different jurisdictions throughout Miami-Dade County. You will note on our submission that we are sticking to the 0.8 parking requirement. So relative to some of the other buildings around town that may have issues with parking, we do not expect to have that issue. In addition to the 0.8 parking requirement on the site, we have fashioned the right-of-ways surrounding the entire east, south, and western portion of the site to be reconstructed to have shoulder parking, which is not counted in the parking that we will be providing to the site. So we're just proud to bring this. We think that this is a corridor where a 6-story building would be well received. And hopefully in the future, the county will indeed bring the premium transit line through 27th Avenue, which will further increase the opportunity for those who live in this corridor. So with that, I just thank you for allowing us to present And one other note, the medical office building, which is not before you today, that will be to the south, will be a complementary asset to this development for those who need just primary care, healthcare services, wellness services, medical prevention services. And we think that that will be something not just for the residents of Wellspring, but for the overall benefit of the Opa-locka community. So with that, thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions, or Mr. Holland as well.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant from the board members?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Dominguez.
This is a great project. You know, I know there's an empty lot that used to be the old Jackson Hospital. We need to make the city look pretty. I just have a question, you know, if this gets approved, how long will it take for this to be built? Because I know that there's been stuff that have been passed in commissioners meetings, and they still have not started. So I don't want it to just sit there and we're waiting and waiting. You know, this is for seniors, you know, which I'm all for. We need to know as far as how long would it take for this building to be built, because we're talking about 6 stories. I know that next to it, there's a tire place. This looks like it's commercial. I'm not sure how this fits in with the residential. If someone can enlighten me in this area, but that's my question. How long will it take?
Well, I think your development agreement has some timelines in it, but I have to be honest with you when it comes to development. Oftentimes, you get your zoning and all that stuff approved, then you have to go to the marketplace to get the monies. Nobody's just sitting around sometimes with $40 million to develop it. So you have to go to market to try to package up the number of units that you have and how do you go about trying to finance that. Kareem and those have already been trying to package that stuff up, trying to get some key players on the finance end to help them on that. But your development agreement gives some very tight timelines. I think it's a 2-year timeline to begin construction somewhere in that time frame. So the development agreement has that information in there, but that's probably why you see sometimes things come before you for zoning approvals, and then people have to go to the marketplace to try to bring those monies in. And COVID was a very interesting year because nobody was spending on development because you don't know how much brick and mortar you need for things now. Restaurants probably won't be fashioned the way they used to be with a whole bunch of indoor seating. And so people the market doesn't really know, and it's trying to find its way now. Housing has typically been a very strong market in South Florida. And that's why we think on this here and probably move it within the time frame that's in your development agreement.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just wanted to piggyback off of Robert in answering Ms. Dominguez's question regarding the zoning. This site, which is owned by Miami-Dade County, is presently zoned for government use. But we also, through our updating of the zoning code, introduced what is called the mixed-use overlay. And you're going to hear that term pretty much a lot whenever it comes to development along our commercial corridors, because we want to entice this type of development to occur along our commercial corridors. And this is what this particular applicant is really taking advantage of in doing this. This is actually a two-pronged process, or a two-pronged project. They're speaking in relationship to the the elderly residential component of it, but there's also the restoration of the medical component, which is another project all within itself. And then there's a third component, which is I believe it's some type of a feeding facility or something to assist those in the community that might not necessarily have the proper nutritional abilities to get the proper foods into their system. So they're looking at it from a multifaceted standpoint of enhancing the quality of life, not just for this particular facility itself, but looking at for the entire Opa-locka community and North Dade County. So this project is tackling a whole lot of things. They're leasing the property from Miami-Dade County. They're coming in with their own development, and they're looking at enhancing the opportunities for medical care. So this particular project is definitely one that we wholeheartedly support. The mixed-use development gives them the opportunity to do the residential as well as some of the commercial aspects for this particular project. And I know we have a presentation relating to staff's recommendation. I can tell you that staff does recommend approval of this project. And I would actually like to turn it over to Mr. Delane so he can make a presentation regarding staff's recommendation.
Sure. Any other questions from the board member for the applicant first?
I have a question, but I don't know if this is something to be brought in the future, because I'm thinking, you know, as someone living in an elderly facility, you know, 27th Avenue is a very busy avenue. Now, there's a Family Dollar close by. They might want to cross the street. Is there any way that they can make, I don't know the company, but the city or the Miami-Dade can do like a light where they can cross the street? Because we don't want later on to say, oh my God, someone got hit, you know, crossing the street and it was someone from the building.
Mhm.
That's what I'm just thinking, you know, if someone crossing the street and they get hit, because that's a very busy avenue.
Can somebody pull up the site plan one more time?
I think Mr. Delane has it as a part of his presentation. So he's getting ready to do that right now.
Can everyone see the site plan?
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, may I address the board?
Yes.
And board member Dominguez, I think your question speaks to buffering, as well as safety crossing a large right-of-way or a section road in Northwest 27th Avenue. So one of the great features about this site is because we needed more room for the medical services, primary care in particular, there will be a building that you see there that's not part of the site. But this site is also buffered by an extension road, which may go away in the future if there is rail brought to this corridor. But as it exists now, that extension road provides an additional buffering from the main traffic that you're speaking of 27th Avenue. But more particularly to your point, I'm not sure how we can do it, but we certainly are willing to work with the city of Opa-locka to create a signalized crossing at the corner of 147th Avenue, which could take you across. But I think that would be the best thing to do if that is a concern of the city, to work with Miami-Dade County to not just have a crossing, but a signalized crossing where at night it can be lit up just like you would have crossing US 1 in South Dade, or I'm sorry, South Miami, going into Coral Gables or any other areas down on US 1 as you come off of I-95. So we're willing to work in conjunction with the city to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Is it Dominguez?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, that's a point well taken, because one of my very best friends, and she was only 53, was killed in that crossing the street going to work to catch the bus in that very same area, and she was not considered even a senior as of yet. So that's a point that's really very well taken, and I hope that we take it seriously. Also, this particular project is very well in keeping with the businesses north of this particular property. I noticed that there's a lot of that they're at the northern end of this property. They've done some facade work on one of the buildings. It seems like that entire area is under construction, and I'm thus far I'm in favor of this project.
Thank you, Ms. Titus.
This is Board Member Mangum. I do have one question just for clarity. The property that is to the south adjacent to this is also being developed in concert with this project, correct?
That is correct, Ms. Mangum.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
If there's no other questions, Mr. Delane, can you quickly go through your staff's recommendation? You're muted, Mr. Dillon.
So as mentioned by the applicant, they're looking to construct a, give me a second, construct a senior housing facility on 27th Avenue north of a previously owned Jackson Health Medical Center, which they're looking to incorporate into their project as well. The site plan, as mentioned, includes the schematics for the building. The square footage is about 66,116 square feet. And as mentioned, the 0.8 surface parking ratio. And as again mentioned, no parking reduction has been requested. In concert with the building, the surrounding areas are B2, and to the immediate east is I1. However, along the strip along 27th Avenue, it is under the mixed-use corridor overlay, thus allowing for the residential component to the development. A few of the specs: the development will be comprised of 110 one bedroom, one bathroom, two bedroom, one bathroom units. The development will include 2 elevators, a multi-purpose room, outdoor pavilion, and picnic area. The project is being constructed on a 1.8 acre parcel adjacent to the Jackson North Maternity Ward, or the demised Jackson North Maternity Ward, and to be repurposed into a community health and wellness center accessible to future residents. Within completion, the site will feature an elderly housing development in addition to the 44,000 square foot medical facility immediately to the south of the project for seniors and low-income residents of the Opa-locka community. And below are a few renderings. And in relations to the criteria of site plan, staff is recommending approval of this site plan. And as the comments have been brought up by board members, we can include that into any agreement that we have with the applicant to ensure that the concerns have been addressed from the board.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Kareem Brantley again. And I was just told by my team that there is some coordination with Florida Department of Transportation for a signalized crossing in the area. And I think your public works staff has been working with them on that already with FDOT. So I'm not certain, I haven't been involved with that particular discussion, but it is my understanding that there is already a planned crossing with a lighted signalization being worked on.
Okay, thank you for that information. Okay, are there any other questions for staff or the applicant from the board members? Ms. Hall, do we have any public comments?
Okay, Chairman, I'm currently looking, and at the moment, again, I don't have any comments from the public.
Okay, public hearing closed. Can we get a motion?
Board Member Claudian, motion to approve the project.
Can we get a second?
Second.
We get roll call?
Okay, Board Member Dominguez,
Yes.
Board Member Hibbert,
Yes.
Board Member Mangum,
Yes.
Board Member Titus,
Yes.
Chair Guerrero,
Yes.
Item passed.
And that brings us to item number 5.
Thank you to the chair and the board members.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to ask if we can keep Aaron and Kareem on for the last item, which is in regards to the development agreement.
Absolutely.
Okay, can we get it read into the record, please?
A resolution of the Planning and Zoning Appeal Board of the City of Opa-locka recommending development agreement approval for the construction and operation of a senior affordable housing facility located at 14703 Northwest 27th Avenue, identified by folios 08-2122-025-0580 and 08-2122-025-0590, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Okay, as far as the development agreement is concerned, do you have any, either the applicant or staff, any presentations?
Well, on behalf of the applicant, I can tell you just very succinctly, Mr. Brantley, as well as Aaron, his assistant who's working with him on this here, both come from the related family who were working on the Liberty Square project, and they were the ones solely responsible for hiring out of the community, making sure minority contractors were involved, so on and so forth. So, and they worked very closely with Career Resources in the past. And so you have someone who comes to the table with an excellent pedigree on making sure things happen in the community. And so I guarantee you, as it relates to the agreement that staff has put forward, we will make sure it's honored, and you guys will be very, very honored by what all happens in the community when we do this project. It'll be let out in the community first, community meetings and everything prior to anybody else getting involved.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, if I could follow up with Mr. Holland on the
Mr.
development. As we all know, that there are certain points and aspects that relate to the hiring of individuals that reside within the city of Opa-locka. We'd like to promote that first. The development agreement automatically speaks to that particulars relating to hiring and not just hiring for construction, hiring for end users as well. So those are some of the things that we want to continue to focus on. Utilization of career source is one of our key components. We're looking at opportunities where we can begin to measure that in order to determine what type of impact it's having in relationship to hiring the people within our community, as well as people who might want to relocate into our community. So those are some of the things that we like to speak to. This particular development agreement pretty much has standard information, but if there is any additional things that we would like to have addressed as a part of the development agreement, here's an opportunity where we can interject those key points from the Planning and Zoning Board.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. Any questions from the board members?
And I would just like to add for the board members, especially board member Dominguez, this is the juncture where you can include your concern about the crosswalk, if you would like to include that in the DA, or if you would like to forward that to the applicant to see how we can alleviate that.
Yes.
If I can, and if I can speak to that, because I know you mentioned on the previous application that if this cannot be done, particularly on their parking, that it has to come back to you. The crosswalk will be an FDOT issue more than likely, which we won't have control over. We obviously can work with the city in trying to push that to try to get it done. But if for some reason they feel it doesn't meet certain spatial requirements that they have as part of their requisites, I wouldn't want us to kill this great project merely because FDOT refuses. But we will work hand in hand with the city to try to make the best case on why we think a crosswalk should be there. And if it's none other than the one where you push the button and the yellow lights flash long enough to stop everybody on both sides for a person to get across the street, which seems to be a dominant or predominant thing that FDOT is doing in different places. But they do treat roads like 27th Avenue a little differently than some others, and we probably won't have the muscle to tell them what they have to do. But I think if we work along with the city to try to make our best case on why it should happen with this senior facility there, they might very well go along with it. I just didn't want it to become a handicap to the project, that's all.
Yes, exactly. You know, for situations like that that are outside of our concern, those are specific cases, but we can at least make the recommendation.
Yes, please.
And we will do our due diligence to follow up through our Public Works Department to see how that programming is going as it relates to traffic impacts for this particular area.
Okay. Any other questions?
Chairman Guerrero?
Yes.
I just wanted everyone to be clear about what it is that they're about to agree to or not agree to. So is in the development agreement, you could put something like the applicant will use best efforts or will participate with the city to bring about the crosswalk, but we just need to be clear what it is that this motion is about to be right now.
Okay.
And
Well,
for the attorney, so we don't, you know, basically hand tie the applicant to this. We can basically say, we can, as you mentioned, we can mention, you know, best efforts to get this, but it won't, you know, basically sabotage the entire project. Is that correct?
well, as I understand from the applicant, they've already are trying to address this issue. If I understand, if I heard him correctly.
Yes.
Good.
Okay, we can still, as far as whoever's going to motion, we'll put it in the motion that, you know, best efforts, that's how we'll phrase it. Okay, there's no other questions. Ms. Hall, do we have any comments from the public on the
Chair, I do
development agreement?
No, sir. I do not have any comments from the public.
Okay, being no comments from the public, can we get a motion for the development agreement?
Move it.
Any second?
Claudia and Hibbert, I second.
Roll call?
Board Member Dominguez,
Yes.
Board Member Hibbert,
Yes.
Board Member Mangum,
Yes.
Board Member Titus,
Yes.
Chair Guerrero.
Yes.
Okay, item passed.
Honorable board, we want to thank you for your consideration and we'll make you proud.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I guess that'll bring up, is there nothing else? That'll bring us to the end of the meeting for today.
I'd just like to say one thing, Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Gay.
On behalf of the staff and on city administration, we'd like to welcome Ms. Audrey Dominguez to the Planning and Zoning Board. She brings a wealth of history and knowledge from the community side. And it's as you can see, she's going to be very outspoken as relates to projects and how they should be implemented within our city. And we just like to say thank you for volunteering to be a part of this board, and we welcome you to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank
Welcome, Ms. Dominguez.
you.
Okay. Okay. And there's,
I might just add one more thing. As some of you are aware, and I'm pretty sure you got the phone calls earlier today, the governor has put out an executive order basically to give relief as it relates to municipalities and counties as it relates to the COVID-19. One of the things that's a part of that is moving from virtual meetings back to in-person meetings. So this will probably be the last of our planning and zoning boards that will be done virtually, unless there's some legislation passed along the line, because I know a lot of people have actually taken hold of this and they actually enjoy this particular format. It's not just something germane to the city of Opa-locka. I've heard it in other municipalities as well. But that's a legislative issue that has to be addressed. And I don't know what the will is as relates to passing that legislation coming forth. But just to let you know, because of that executive order that was just passed, that was issued last Monday, we decided, because we had already advertised this as a virtual meeting, that we would go ahead and move forward with this being virtual. But this will most likely be the last virtual meeting that we will hold for the Planning and Zoning Board. So next time we get to see you in face, in person, eyeball to eyeball, cheek to cheek, well, maybe not cheek to cheek. We got to maintain at least 3 feet distance. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. And I don't know if there's any other items that need to be brought to the board's attention for consideration at the next meeting. Madam Attorney?
I don't have anything.
Okay. So that pretty much concludes the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Goodbye.
You too.